And we're live.
Yeah. What's good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
We back, and that was flawless AF.
Yeah. I think that's the first time we got it on the nose.
We got at least two. We got at least two. It's just last week being in the same room, it threw us all the way out.
Got it. Okay. So it's off.
But we back. And
how you feeling?
That is a question. I'm here. I'm happy to be doing this. I'm happy to be working on anything with my brother. I'm happy to just have discussions, but it's like one of those big transitions in your life, trying to kind of work through everything and get to where you want to be without being impatient, without making stupid mistakes, without like setting yourself back by just moving out of turn is where I'm at right now.
That makes sense. Just kind of taking it easy, so to speak.
Pretty much.
In some ways, without having to kind of bite off too much.
Basically. Getting ready to, as you know, set up some stuff for the move. And like that doesn't really go into effect until September. So trying to kind of get ready for that too and open my options to change. There we go. That's how I word that currently.
Got it.
How about yourself, good friend?
I'm cool. I've been doing a lot of background work, kind of business stuff that's just kind of needing to be done over the past year and a half with this pandemic. There's been a lot of like kind of work stress. And so that's starting to fall off with a normal summer that I'm experiencing. And so, yeah, I'm able to kind of catch up and feel a little bit better, feel a little bit more relaxed. Just spending time slowing down a little bit, I think.
Basically, I also think we're just really out here grown manning in that sense.
Eli.
Okay, I like that. That was dope. Good luck with that, bruh. But where we are right now, I think both of us is thinking about that next big purchase, that home ownership, that stuff that's like life changing in its entirety of how you go about doing. It's a process that so many people have gone through, but it's just a process, man. You really learn a lot about yourself as you're trying to figure out where you want to live, figure out, school systems and if this future this and what's around me. Am I 30 minutes from the major city? Am I in the major city? What am I doing here? But that's outside of this.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out, right? So we've asked a lot of questions about buying a home. And so if you live in Arkansas, you listen to this podcast, you can reach out to Marlon Givens. He's a friend of the family and just kind of a longtime mentor of mine. And he's with Unlimited Properties in Little Rock, Arkansas. So yeah, he can answer a lot of questions if you have them.
Shout out
about getting your home.
Shout out. That is actually really cool. So we'll jump into our first topic, which is Chris Paul, 36-year-old NBA veteran, has finally made it to the finals.
Nice.
Now, guys, listen. TJ is not the biggest sports fan.
Not at all.
So this was more of a Joe topic in the sense that I wanted to pick your brain about this aspect of it. we are music for the underdogs. We are here for the underdogs. Do you think America actually roots for the underdog?
You know what? I'm going to say a resounding no.
And this finals proves it. This man has made teams better everywhere he's gone. He started in New Orleans. He went to the Clippers. He's played for the Houston. He's played for Oklahoma City. And no matter where he's gone, he was even blocked by the NBA to go to the Lakers with Kobe, where he for sure would have won a championship. He is one of the Banana Boat Boys, which is LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and himself. They're all great friends. As you know, well, currently 2 out of the 3 of those 4 friends have rings. Carmelo and Chris Paul being the only players who don't. But the level of greatness between those 4 seems to be appreciated or underappreciated, I should say. Especially when it comes to Paul, because in this finals, it's the Suns versus the Bucks. 2 technically small market towns, but with play styles and players that aren't the household names that people are used to outside of Chris Paul and the current MVP current 2-time, or he's a 2-time MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it was strange to me because so many people have called this series boring. And I'm like, but these teams, one of them is about to get their 2nd championship, potentially in the Bucks. That they haven't had success since Luol Cinder, Sidney Moncrief, shout out Arkansas, and the other who hasn't had as much greatness since Charles Barkley was on the Suns, losing to Michael Jordan in the finals.
So before I jump into like my kind of underdog theory or what I think about that, like what do you think about being underdog and why it's not as popular?
I think people want you to be their style of an underdog. An underdog is scrappy. An underdog has like some defining quality that is unique to them. You want to see them in a movie against the titans of the industry. You don't want essentially 2 underdogs as you could picture it going against one another. But you also create this scenario that it has to be David and Goliath every time. And no matter what, if it's 2 underdogs going against each other, you didn't expect either one to get here. Either the fact that there is like no joy in regards to the fact that they're winning. You know, someone is going to win that we know is going to deserve this, that this is going to be a career defining accolade. You're already giving it an asterisk, so to speak.
I think my perspective on it is when it comes to the underdog, I think people have to like the underdog in mass. So the underdog has to be popular. And then on top of being popular, the underdog or the concept has to be popular. But popularity in some cases doesn't really make you the underdog, right? Like at some point there's a tipping point and you're not the underdog anymore. You're everybody's favorite. And so it's really a like really fine line. It's almost like to be an underdog, you have to continuously be losing in some sort of way.
Right. And they also have to hate who you're going against. That's another thing. Like for years, there were so many people that were underdogs going against LeBron in a certain way or you just rooted for whoever was on the other side because you just hated LeBron. You know, I know because I was one of those people when it first started, because I couldn't even fathom a world outside of being a fan in that sense.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get older, you kind of realize how stupid that was, because if somebody came to you and I right now and was like, hey, I know you love your job, but if I could offer you a job where I, quadruple your pay, you get to work with your best friend, and it's just going to be a happier place, are you going to take the job? Hell yes, I'm taking the job. And it gets easier for you. So you don't have to work as hard to get half of where you've gone. We're all taking the job. So in hindsight, I'm mad at myself for begrudging LeBron as a fan for not sticking it out tooth and nail with Cleveland that first go round. I'm mad at myself for the fact that I know in the same situation, I would make a different choice. So it's just kind of, it just kind of shows how much we've yet to evolve in terms of what we watch, and how we want underdogs, or how we want things to kind of be for our entertainment or whatever.
Yeah, I think there has to be sort of like a bandwagon effect.
Basically,
right?
Yes.
In a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have to be, and this is why we don't have products that just kind of are instant successes.
Right.
Things usually have an innovator phase where folks will come in and they'll be like, oh, I like this. And they're way ahead of it. They're the hipsters of the thing. And then the early adopters are the ones that just learn from the innovators, and the innovators are doing something over here. I think I should do it too. And then that's when you get in the middle, that's when you get the bandwagon.
Now,
right. And then everybody that comes on late.
I feel like what you're saying kind of ties into the people who could go and subscribe for $5 to the No Rhyme or Reason Patreon and be early adapters to the fact that this excellent thing that we do every week is going to keep growing. And you're going to be a part of that. You're going to be a part of that support. You're an early investor to myself. You're an early investor in a WordPlay TJ on the Map Music Group. You're getting freestyles and other random content that we talk about that no one else can get. Eventually, you guys are just going to be sitting here with us while we stream and do all of these things through all the mess ups and whatnot. I'm just saying, early adopters are pretty cool. They're pretty cool people.
That was a great segue.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm working on my segue game.
Yeah. So speaking of adoption, I think we can go on to our next topic, right? Unless you have anything more.
My one last thing on that is just congratulations in advance to Chris Paul for making the finals. I do hope that he wins. I think that Giannis has a lot more time to win and will win, in my opinion. But Chris Paul really deserves this, in my humble opinion. No matter what has happened in his career, the ups, the downs, the trolling, the fact that when he was at Wake Forest, everyone remembers him for punching a guy in the nuts. And it was just this whole thing. And he was a villain for a long time, or at least they tried to vilify him in terms of the way he plays. But shout out to him and shout out to the fact that he's just an amazing player who deserves, he's going to go down as one of the top 40. He's going to go down as one of the top 10 point guards of all time. And his win percentage, his per average, and all those other stats that I know are just amazing. So, yes, sir.
That's dope. So yeah, kind of speaking of this kind of bandwagon effect and people going along. There's something that is tied to the music industry that has happened, according to Music Business Worldwide and MRC data that's attached to Nielsen SoundScan and stuff. They did a survey and they learned that in the first 6 months of this year, from January till June, 66% of all the music that's been consumed overall and listened to has been from artists' back catalog, not their new stuff, but all the stuff they've released before. Now, that could be a sign of like just not a lot of great new music has come out and nobody's really raving about it. Right. We talked about Kendrick not coming out just yet, and people are a little disappointed that that's not happening, or they're speculating about it. But in this scenario, we're looking at maybe a phenomena that's continuing to grow over the years. It's grown about 3% since last year for the same 6 months. And then in 2018, it's grown like 6%. So more and more often people are like searching through people's back catalog. And so I'm curious, what do you think about that?
I think it's the discovery phase. So you'll have an artist and you might tell me, hey, go listen to this guy, Lupe. And when you say that, I'm like, okay, I listened to the song. Oh, I like this. Does he have anything else? And so then I go crate digging for all of the music and the back catalog to inform me of who this person is and where they are. More people have entered into the conversation of you should listen to this album. This was a classic. That was a classic. And the releases of those stars that we crave is far and few and in between. You might have a Cardi B or the Baby or whoever release within like a year or 2 years of, their first album and their second album. So you're getting new music. But for the heavyweights, the release schedule has been a little bit more widespread. Drake gave us about an album a year and a half, or every 2 years, it seemed like, for a while. And then that seems to have slowed a bit. Kendrick and J. Cole have always been on their schedules, as well as other top artists in terms of when we got Magna Carta, the 44, the Carter's album. They're more spread out. And in the playlist era, if you find something that's fire, most people want to see what the context is. What's the context that this song lives in and starts to grow from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have some thoughts on it that are kind of similar to that. I don't know if you remember, but I feel like forever I've been talking about just kind of this theory of in music or being a independent musician where you just kind of build your brand.
Yeah.
And as you're building your brand and putting out new stuff, you're just capturing more and more audiences. I talk about it in my music when I talk about like my music being like a sitcom, or I'll talk about it on music advice videos on YouTube where I just say, hey, just keep putting stuff out. Keep collecting fans, keep building up your tribe, and slowly and surely there'll be this moment where it just kind of tips over. I talked about the tipping point earlier, and that comes from a book by Malcolm Gladwell, where he talks about for every brand, for every big entity or public figure, there's a tipping point where eventually the audience breaks this threshold of being virtually unknown to known. And he uses the example, maybe Garrett, you can splice this in, of like a random sporadic dance party starting in a like kind of grassy field, where there's one guy or there's one person gets up and they start dancing, and then another person comes and they start dancing, and then another one, and all of a sudden it's a dance party. It's the same phenomena of when somebody starts clapping in a crowded room, and when they're clapping, all of a sudden the rest of the crowd joins into clapping, and that's an example of that effect.
Thank you. Calm down, guys.
And so my thought is, like, when artists are thinking about going viral, right, for that one hit record or something of that nature, It almost seems like the wrong approach. The right approach would be to consistently put out something until something maybe takes you over that tipping point, or your audience grows to that tipping point that takes you over the edge. And so it's kind of betting on yourself as a creative and just being consistent. Now there is, kind of a fallacy that can build up there, right? You could be putting out bad work and just never get to that point. But objectively, if you're putting out good work and you know that there's something there, and other people have proven to you that there's something there, then I would say that you would benefit from this phenomena right here, because what's going to happen is more and more people are going to listen to you. They're going to find you. And like you said, Joe, they're going to dive into your back catalog. That's a instant feedback loop, because if people like it, they're going to talk about it. They're going to tell somebody about it.
Tied to this, have you seen the T-Pain clip?
Which one?
Where he was talking about like, we got enough of them. Shit. Because somebody asked him about, I think, rappers, and he was just talking about the music industry in general. He's like, we got it, the little baby. Just quit it. Just stop. And
I hadn't seen that clip. Garrett, can you clip that in?
The whole aspect of what it was he was saying was just kind of be original. That callback to just do something different. We have this person if we want that. We have this person if we want that. We have this person if we want that. We don't need you two doing that. That has always been one of my big cries for that. And it shows with this data. Because what you're saying is, I'm not listening as much to the new this person or that person in most regards, because they did give some examples of the albums that people were listening to. And it's a Drake, it's a Rihanna, it's artists that are already established. It wasn't this person, little ticky tack over here that just dropped an EP, little TikTok that sounds like a Lil Yachty album or a Lil Baby album or whatever, that's trying to ride a wave versus trying to be a wave starter. And I know that that's hard as an artist to kind of request that, but it's not impossible. It's not something that requires like a complete and utter overhaul. But it just takes some time to sit and kind of see who it is that you are. What is your story? I can hear in my music, and I've shown somebody, I've gone through like my older music when I was 19 to now, even when I was 16 to now, and seen who I was influenced by in the way that I was rapping. I think that I'm clearly at a point now where I sound like me, but that's something that's hard, but also, like I said, lends to this point of we're not doing enough new stuff that people feel like there's enough to listen to in that sense.
Yeah. And even then, like, how do people actually, if they're not on social media, how do people actually keep up with the new stuff? Right. Because the new stuff has to filter through, say, a playlist, or like it just has to make its way through media, or it has to go viral. And people aren't really searching as much for new stuff all the time, I don't think. Right.
And the cosign isn't as powerful as it once was to me, or the artist cosign, I should say.
I know as a music listener, I don't want to, I don't dig for new stuff a lot. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I just listen to the same old song.
Same thing with me. I may get a single or something from a new artist, and if I really like the artist, I had not heard a lot of Lucky Day, and he got placed in the one. Well, actually, I had heard him mentioned as a sleeper on the Joe Budden podcast. I think he had done a couple shows with them when they first started going on the road. But I didn't like take to him the way I would take to other sleepers that they had. So when she has a playlist, showed it to me. I go and I'm listening to everything I can. I haven't listened to a full album or a full project, but every song that I see, I'd be like, YouTube, let's go there. Let's go there. And I was just really intrigued by it. So it still happens. It's just so niche to get to that new person and be so interested in that new person that you go back and listen to the things that they have.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any more?
Not on that. I think it's just really good. I am going to break my cycle of not being in the fray of building up my brand. It's a hard thing, I know, with me. And it's funny, it's 4:44. Anyway, it's a hard thing for me to have not so much the esteem, but I think in the vein that I was just speaking about with the new artist and it being hard, I think I think too much about that. So I'm thinking about, this song sounds different. Does it sound like me? Does it sound this? And then I'm trying to over sculpt my lyrics. When we've talked about this, the whole thing is finish it, put it out. Finish it, put it out. So I'm trying to get back to where I can get in with that. Get in where you fit in. You feels me.
Yeah. So speaking of 444, right? So Jay Z, this is old news, by the way. So Jack Dorsey finalized the deal. Jack Dorsey, if you don't know him, he's the CEO of Twitter. And he also is a part of Square. I believe he's the CEO of Square as well. Mm-hmm. Square is a financial services that owns up Cash App. They do my payroll. And so the Square is purchasing, was purchasing Tidal for about $297 million in cash and stock for the majority of Tidal, the streaming service that Jay Z and other artists collectively owned. And it was founded by Jay Z, and it once was a kind of Swedish application, was revamped in order to create Tidal. And so now Jay Z and Jack are partnered together, and they've been seen together, just kind of they've been collaborating and talking and doing having conversations together. I listened to a lot of these conversations while I was flying back and forth to Arkansas, and really wanted to understand the question that I'm about to pose. Is kind of like, why did Square and Jay Z, why is Jack Dorsey the right person for Tidal? Why did this happen? And is there going to be any improvements? I just kind of wanted to speculate about that. Just, investigate that idea.
So first things first. Good luck with that, bruh. Because we have to use that as much as we can every episode. So here's why it's a great thing. One, Jack Dorsey has a lot of stock in NFTs. As artists have been growing, that is becoming a huge place for collectors, so on and so forth. We don't know what NFTs are going to look like in the next 5-10 years, but right now it's the hot to try thing. So, if you don't know what NFTs are, I did a whole video on that on my music advice channel. So right here on the YouTube channel, you can check that out. Link somewhere down there, just so you can go to it, or if Garrett wants to, or anyone wants to throw it in a card, wherever them things go.
Somewhere. There. It's usually there. Right there.
I love that. But what this will do for artists, especially the huge artists that were a part of or are a part of Tidal, is it's going to allow a Patreon-esque place for them to place their valuable albums. It'll be something that they start pushing. It'll be promotional. It'll be a big thing. Lupe is doing a food and liquor. Or no, food and liquor NFT things right now, as well as like a couple of other people. But it's going to be a revenue stream for the artist in that way, because you're going to start going into those different types of currency, those different types of, this is the way to be a fan. So merging that with the ideals and probably user interface of a Twitter is probably going to be something that they also do to engage social media in a bigger place on Tidal. Because that seems as though something Jack Dorsey would do, as he's revolutionized social media in and of itself. For all that Facebook did, Twitter took it and ran with it to a whole nother place.
I'm a little concerned about the NFT part. And the reason why I'm concerned about it is because when I was researching NFTs, it's incredibly difficult to like follow the chain to complete either creating one or selling one. Like the order of operations to get to an NFT is way more tech savvy and way more complicated than the average user will be able to take care of.
That's true. But I think that with both of the things that he's a part of, he's going to make that an easier process. And you only need the early adopters to start doing it. And if I get you there, especially given the power and everything else that he has, I don't know if Tidal has because I never got around to it, and you could probably tell me better than anybody, if Tidal had a login with Twitter account thing.
You do have some alternative login options as far as that's concerned, but that's mostly just access. Yeah, that's not embedded in the user interface, right? So it's not really doing anything. But that doesn't mean that that's not on the way, because other social media platforms have ways for you to insert music from platforms into the platform.
That is exactly what I was about to get to. It's going to reinvigorate the brand, and Jay Z is not going anywhere. This is still something that he's stepping into, that he's building with Jack Dorsey. He's just changing his role. So it's still something I think to look out for, because it's just going to change. It's going to give us artists another place to build ourselves up as companies, build ourselves up as brands, build ourselves up as CEOs, so on and so forth, because that's what it's about. And if you make that aspect of things more user friendly to the people that are supporting, it's going to just bring in more revenue, because I think that's the initial vaulting point of it was, okay, so now all these artists are at the table. They're doing exclusive releases here. But what does that mean for me? That just means I got to wait a couple weeks until I can listen to it on my Apple Music. Or YouTube at this point has kind of taken over that aspect. Like if an album releases, I'm probably normally listening to it on YouTube.
Yeah, exclusivity hasn't been a great way to deliver albums. It's just not fan friendly in a lot of ways. But I think embedding Square into Tidal, and this is just kind of speculative, because we don't know if that Square system is going to be even linked to Tidal. I know for a fact that they talked about it on a call on Twitter. That Jay Z and Jack said that they're working on the environment, the playlisting, the just kind of the user experience, right? When in Tidal, to make it a lot better. And Tidal, they've also claimed, or Jay Z claims, that Tidal has improved their playlisting abilities. That was one of the biggest gripes from some folks that have tried Tidal, is that the playlists weren't as smart on there, but they've improved the algorithms and been working on the algorithms to make them smarter. So I've been testing it out to see. I still feel like Square is going to connect in some way. Just kind of, again, speculating. But if Square does connect, then, like you said, it might be a Patreon thing where you can support an artist directly.
My theory would be that, and some streamings of or some methods of streaming is what I'm trying to say, will also be incorporated. So in all of the new streaming services, Twitch or wherever you go, there's bit systems, there's super chats, there's Discord things that you can kind of do. There's Patreon. There's all of these places where you can donate to your favorite artists, donate to charities, and do all kinds of things. I think, given all of the different avenues that he's in, that's going to be the use. It's easier to say, well, hit the Cash App to this person or whoever. Because then you're not putting them behind, okay, I got to buy these bits from you, which is a fraction of however much money I'm giving them, when it used to just be like a direct transaction of, this is how much I'm trying to give you.
There's also the social aspect, right? Yeah. Like banking in general, right? Which is, to your point, we're using NFTs or blockchain or some other alternative method of transacting. People generally, I feel like in our community, don't have a fear of banks, don't really trust banks as much, and are likely to not really have a bank account. And so Cash App has been a savior in a lot of ways,
in so many different ways,
as an alternative to like going to a brick and mortar bank. So that might be a social reason that Jay Z is also involved in Square based off of this deal. Now, I feel like it'll give some props up to the Black community, thinking about ownership, thinking about wealth redistribution, those types of things that can happen once you take a lot of the finances away from the banking system.
And it'll also, making things streamlined is always the most user-friendly thing in the world. The easier it is for me to get to the product that I need, the easier it is for me to gain rewards for that, the easier it is for me to use my profile building, my playlist building. I'm just going to get to a point to where I'm just happy. Because the easier you make those things, the more exciting I've seen it become on different levels. When Twitter just removed the character limits. Now, in the 140 or the initial 140, we had to be creative. We had to think about what it was that we were saying, but then we would just use text talk, and that kind of diminished a lot, or you had to do 12 tweets or whatever the case may be to get your point across. Whereas now, if it's picture, video, it's all seamless. So it brought even more people than what was already there. It continues to increase. It continues to be a supportive place for all kinds of creatives. So I think that bringing those things to Tidal, reshaping it, redesigning it, is going to revolutionize streaming services in a lot of different ways, if they can get this right, is my theory. I think that they will, but I think that that's what they are currently constructing, is this central hub of, how do we take all of the things that Spotify doesn't really do correctly? Like, the Spotify fan system is cool, but what does it really do? At the end of the year, I'm telling people about, I had this many listens, so on and so forth. And it's a snapshot of the year. But outside of bringing in not early adapters, but the bandwagons at that point, if my numbers are significant, what does that actually do for the people? What does it actually do for those fans interacting with one another? Nothing really, because those fans aren't really interacting with one another. It's just if I post it and I see that you have somebody on your list that I like or whatever, I may or may not be like, I like that person too. I may like your post. So I think that that's somewhere that they could really capitalize is if you're redesigning towards those people.
Great point. So, so I'm thinking we should take an opportunity to kind of start wrapping up. The last episode hasn't delivered as of the time of hasn't been put out at the time of us recording this. And so if you have any comments about any of the topics that we discussed today, be sure to email them to nrorpodcast@gmail.com. We'll read them live on the show. And again, if you would like to be a part of the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/wordplaytj and be in the Only for the Underdogs section, which is about $3 per month. Music advice first. If you are a music advice fan of mine, or music advice exclusive, if you're wanting to be in that group. So yeah, I'm wondering if we can get into our overtime.
We can, but we have to tell people, the people that are here on the regular one, that
True.
We'll see you guys in the next one. We appreciate you for coming. You can check out our socials. They'll be down there. Follow us, and a 1 and a 2 and peace.
Peace.